It was a Tuesday afternoon. I remember the exact date because it was less than a week before Thanksgiving. I was driving home from work, stuck in traffic on the freeway, when my phone rang. It was my mom, Linda. I answered, putting her on speaker because I knew she usually had a lot to say, and I like to keep my hands free. "Emily, is that you?" Her voice was crisp, a little too loud in the car. "Yeah, Mom. It's me. What's up?" There was a pause. A rustling sound like she was holding the phone away from her mouth. Then I heard my cousin Kevin's voice in the background. Muffled, but clear enough. "Just tell her. Aunt Linda." My stomach tightened a little. This usually meant something was coming. Then Mom's voice came back louder, with an edge to it I knew well. "Emily," she said, her tone firm. "Your father and I have talked. You're banned from Thanksgiving until you apologize to Kevin." The words hit me. Banned from Thanksgiving. Not, "we're upset" or "we need to talk." Just a flat-out ban. And an apology to Kevin for what? We'd had a petty argument a few weeks ago about something stupid. Some old family history he'd twisted. I hadn't even thought about it since. It wasn't a big deal to me. But apparently, it was to them. Before I could even process it, Kevin's voice, clear as day from the background, cut through. "She can eat leftovers in the garage." He laughed. A real hearty laugh. My mom didn't correct him. I heard another chuckle. Too. Like someone else found it funny. I didn't say anything. The traffic around me moved slowly. A blur of brake lights. My hands gripped the steering wheel. My throat felt tight. Dry. It wasn't just the words. It was the laughter. The casual way they dismissed me made me a joke. A problem to be solved with an apology I didn't feel I owed. Inside, something shifted. It wasn't a snap. Not a sudden explosion. It was slower. Deeper. Like a tectonic plate finally grinding past its breaking point. I had always been the quiet one. The one who tried to keep the peace. The one who took the hits and just kept going. But this was different. This felt cold. This felt intentional. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that being quiet didn't make me strong. It just made me easy to overlook and easy to hurt. My mom continued, oblivious to the silence on my end. "So, you think about it? If you want to come, you know what you need to do." "Okay, Mom," I managed to say, my voice sounding flat, even to my own ears. "I'll think about it." I hung up. The silence in my car suddenly deafening. The laughter echoed in my head. Leftovers in the garage. It wasn't just about Thanksgiving anymore. It was about everything. And in that moment, sitting in traffic, something in me decided that enough was finally, irrevocably enough. For years, I had been the family's silent safety net. Not because I was rich. Not because I bragged about it. but because I was disciplined. I worked hard. I saved. I lived simply, and I watched. I watched the bills pile up. The worried looks. The casual mentions of things being tight. And I stepped in. Always quietly. Always without asking for praise. It started small. My dad needed a surgery. Insurance covered most of it. But there was a gap. A few thousand. My parents stressed. My siblings offered sympathy, but no solutions. I just transferred the money. It's fine. Dad, don't worry about it. Just focus on getting better. He thanked me. My mom thanked me. They didn't ask how I had it or if it was a hardship. It was just there. Then came the family phone plan. Someone was always forgetting a payment or going over data or getting their service cut off. It became a constant source of stress. So, I offered, let me just put it on my card. Mom, it'll be easier to manage one bill. And it was for them. Every month, the payment came out of my account. I didn't mind. Not at first. It seemed like a practical solution. It kept everyone connected. Utilities. 2. There were months when the electricity bill was high. Or the gas. My mom would sigh. Say they'd have to cut back. I'd quietly log in. Make a payment. Sometimes I'd say, "Oh, I think I paid that one already. Mom, don't worry." Other times, I just did it. I didn't want them to struggle. I didn't want them to worry. I just wanted them to be okay. Groceries. My parents were getting older. Money was always tight for them. I'd go to the store, grab their list, and then add a few extra things. Nicer meats, fresh fruit, things I knew they wouldn't buy for themselves. I'd pay. And when they tried to give me money, I'd wave it off. It's fine. Mom, just a little bit. My treat. They'd smile. Say I was so sweet. It felt good then to help. It felt like love. Even surprise copays. A doctor's visit. A new prescription. They'd mention it almost offhandedly. And I'd just offer, "Let me get that, Dad." And I would. Without a second thought. I wasn't wealthy. I worked a regular job. I made a decent salary. But I wasn't rolling in money. I was just responsible. I tracked my expenses. I had a budget. I didn't spend carelessly. They saw me as frugal, sometimes in a dismissive way. "Emily's so good with money," they'd say. Almost like it was a quirk, not a necessity. They didn't see the early mornings, the extra shifts, the careful choices I made every single day to build a little cushion for myself, and by extension for them. In silence, I became their safety net, the one footing the costs they mocked me for being able to afford. The irony was sharp, but I ignored it. I told myself it was just what family did. It was my way of showing I cared, my way of being there for them, even when they weren't always there for me in the ways that mattered. I bought their peace of mind. one bill at a time, and no one ever knew the true cost. The Thanksgiving ban wasn't just a private phone call. It became public. The family group chat was usually filled with mundane updates, photos of pets, or vague plans. This year, it was different. Someone started a thread, Thanksgiving guest list, and names started appearing. Aunt Patty, Uncle Steve, Cousin Ashley and her kids, Cousin Brian, my brother Jason, my sister Jessica, even Kevin. Everyone was there except me. I scrolled through the list. My name was conspicuously absent. It felt like a punch to the gut, but also a weird confirmation. They were actually doing it. They were really banning me. My heart ached, but a cold anger started to settle in. I decided to ask just to see what they would say. "Hey everyone," I typed, trying to keep my tone light. "Looks like fun. Did I miss something about the guest list?" The replies came quickly. My mom responded first. "A generic? We're just making sure everyone has space." Then Kevin jumped in. His message popped up, limited seating. "Emily, try Christmas if you behave." If I behave? Like I was a child. Like I needed to earn my place. The rest of the chat went quiet for a moment. Then someone posted a gif of a turkey. The message was clear. My question had been answered. My humiliation was complete. It wasn't just the group chat. It was the subtle digs, the casual dismissals that piled up over the years. At family dinners, when I tried to talk about my job, my modest achievements, someone would inevitably steer the conversation back to Kevin's new promotion, or Jason's latest entrepreneurial idea. My mom would say, "Emily's just so sensible." A word that felt like a polite way of saying boring or unambitious. I remembered a few months ago. I was out shopping with Aunt Patty. We were at the checkout, and the cashier made a polite comment about my sensible, durable shoes. "Oh, these old things," Aunt Patty said, waving her hand dismissively. "Emily's just a little sensitive about success. You know, doesn't like to draw attention to herself. Keep the small talk short, sweetie." I froze. The cashier looked uncomfortable, then just nodded and scanned my items. I felt my face flush. My aunt, my own family, publicly implying I was insecure about my lack of success, when in reality, I was the one quietly propping up half of their lives. It was a wound that never quite healed. Every slight, every joke at my expense, every time they chose someone else's feelings over mine, it chipped away at me. They saw me as the quiet one, the one who wouldn't make a fuss, the one who could be counted on to just take it. And I did. For years, I swallowed the comments, the comparisons, the outright rejections. I told myself it didn't matter, that they loved me in their own way. That family was family, and you stuck by them. But the Thanksgiving ban in front of everyone felt like the final straw. It wasn't just my name missing from a list. It was my worth, my place, My very existence within the family being publicly questioned and then dismissed with a cruel joke. And as the days counted down to Thanksgiving, that humiliation curdled into something harder, something resolute. Thanksgiving Day arrived. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Usually by now, I would have been up early helping my mom in the kitchen, or at least driving over to drop off a side dish I'd meticulously prepared. Not this year. This year, I was alone in my apartment. I tried to act like it was just another day. I cleaned. I read a book. I even went for a long walk, trying to pretend the crisp autumn air wasn't carrying the scent of roasting turkey from every other house in the neighborhood. But every ring of my phone, every notification made my heart jump. I knew it wouldn't be an invitation, but I still hoped foolishly for some kind of reprieve. Around lunchtime, a text came. It was from my mom. My stomach clenched. I opened it slowly. "We saved you a plate. Emily. Porch pickup if you want it." Porch pickup. Not. "Come join us. We miss you." Not. "We made a mistake." Just a cold, impersonal offer of leftovers left outside like a forgotten package. It was an afterthought. A pity offering. A way for them to say they technically offered without having to actually see me. The loneliness was a physical ache in my chest. It felt heavy, like a stone. I pictured them all around the table, laughing, eating, sharing stories. My dad at the head. My mom bustling. Kevin probably holding court with some exaggerated story. Jason and Jessica playing with their kids. A perfect family tableau without me. I looked at the clock. It was late afternoon. I knew dinner would be winding down by now. Still, something in me felt compelled to drive by. Not to pick up the plate, but just to see. To confirm. To put a visual to the pain. I drove slowly past their house. The lights were on. Warm and inviting. I could hear faint laughter. The murmur of voices. Cars lined the street. Family cars. Everyone was there. Then I saw it. On the porch by the front door was a foil-covered plate. Exactly as she'd said. It looked small. Pathetic. Sitting there in the fading light. And then I saw something else. A neighbor's fluffy orange cat, bold and curious, was sniffing around the edge of the foil, its tail twitching. It looked like it was about to paw at the cover. That was it. That was the moment. The loneliness I had felt all day. The quiet ache. It didn't disappear, but something else grew alongside it. A hard, cold resolve. It wasn't just about the ban anymore. It wasn't about the apology. It was about being so completely disregarded, so utterly disposable that my place was literally on the porch, left for a cat to investigate. I kept driving. I didn't stop. I didn't get out. I left the plate there for the cat, or for the cold, or for whatever would eventually claim it. It didn't belong to me. Nothing about that day, about that family gathering, belonged to me. As I drove away, The tears finally came. They weren't angry tears. Not really. They were tears of deep, profound sadness. But beneath the sadness, a new kind of strength was solidifying. A quiet, unyielding power. They had made their choice. And now I would make mine. The loneliness had turned into a burning resolve. And that resolve felt like the beginning of something new. Something powerful. Days after Thanksgiving, life was supposed to return to normal. But nothing felt normal to me. The porch plate, the cat, the casual cruelty of my family, it all festered. I went through the motions at work. But my mind was elsewhere. I felt hollowed out, but also strangely alert, like a wound that had finally stopped bleeding and was starting to scar over. Hardening. Then the calls started. Predictably. The first was Kevin. He called me, his voice oozing with false charm. "Hey, Emily. How's it going? Listen. Quick favor." I braced myself. "What is it?" Kevin. "So, it's Jen's birthday next week. And I really want to get her something special. You know, but my last paycheck was a little light. Could you spot me like $600? I'll pay you back next month. Promise." $600 for his girlfriend's gift from the cousin who had publicly mocked me days earlier. The gall. Family takes care of each other. Right. He added, as if that was the magic phrase that would unlock my wallet. The phrase that had always worked. But this time it just sounded hollow and manipulative. Before I could even formulate a response, my dad called. "Emily. Honey? Your mom and I need a little help. The car needs a repair. A big one. And we're a bit short on the down payment for a new water heater. Could you do us a quick $300 deposit just to hold it?" $300 on top of the $600 Kevin was asking for. A quick total of $900 for things they needed, yes. But things they always seemed to need from me. I hung up with both of them, promising nothing. Just saying I'd look into it. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, but from a deep, weary frustration. I walked to my home office, a small space I had carved out in my apartment, and opened my laptop. I logged into my banking app. I started scrolling through years of transactions. Years of my money flowing out to them. There were the mortgage payments I'd covered when they were short. A few thousand here. A few thousand there. Just to keep them afloat. Groceries. So many grocery store charges. Just my treat. Meds. Co-pays for doctors. Prescriptions. Dentist visits. Utilities. Electricity. Gas. Water bills. Cell phone plans. All of it silently handled by me. I saw the Venmo transfers to Kevin for rent. Bills. Just need a little extra. Each one a small cut. Bleeding my resources dry. I saw the car repairs I'd secretly paid for. The appliances I'd replaced. The quiet loans that were never repaid. Never even acknowledged as debts. The total amount was staggering. It wasn't just hundreds. It was thousands. Tens of thousands. Money I had earned, saved, and meticulously managed. Not for a luxurious life, but for security. For my own future. Money I had poured into their lives without a single complaint. Without a single expectation of return, other than perhaps a little respect. A little love. A little acknowledgement. And what had I received in return? A ban from Thanksgiving. Public humiliation. Laughter. A plate on the porch for the cat. And now more demands. More expectations. Family takes care of each other. My eyes scanned the screen. Each line a receipt of my quiet generosity and their casual exploitation. A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. The resolve I'd felt on Thanksgiving Day solidified into something unbreakable. I took a deep breath. My voice was barely a whisper, but it felt like a shout inside my head. Not anymore. The words were soft, but they carried the weight of years of silent sacrifice, of being overlooked and undervalued. This wasn't just a simple refusal. This was the end of an era, the end of their era of relying on me, and the beginning of my own. I closed the laptop, the glow of the screen reflecting the new, unyielding determination in my eyes. The breaking point had been reached, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. The decision was made. But a decision is just a thought until you act on it. For years, my actions had been quiet. Invisible transfers of money. Now, my actions needed to be tangible, solid, and undeniable. I couldn't just say no. I needed to show them why. I needed proof not for them, but for myself. I needed to see the full weight of what I had been carrying. That's when I called Susan Vance. Susan wasn't family. She was my mentor. My former manager from my first real job. A woman in her late 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that I had always admired. She'd taken me under her wing, taught me how to negotiate, how to save, how to see my own value in a world that often tried to diminish it. I hadn't told her the full extent of my family's financial dependence on me, mostly out of shame. But now, I needed her strategic mind. I met her for coffee, my hands wrapped around a warm mug, my voice low as I laid it all out: the bills, the requests, the Thanksgiving ban, the porch plate. I expected a lecture or maybe pity. Instead, she just listened, her gaze steady. When I finished, she took a slow sip of her coffee. "Emily," she said, her voice calm and even. "They're not just taking your money. They're taking your future. Every dollar you give them is a dollar you don't invest in yourself." She leaned forward slightly. "You need to perform a financial exorcism. You need to untangle yourself completely. But to do that, you need to see the ghost in the machine. You need to quantify it." That's where the idea for the binder was born. It wasn't just about collecting receipts. It was about creating a ledger of my life, a physical record of my silent sacrifices. That night, I bought a thick 3-ring binder, a pack of plastic sleeves, and a set of highlighters. My mission began. For the next 2 weeks, my apartment became a war room of financial archaeology. I printed out years of bank statements, credit card bills, and online payment confirmations. At first, it was overwhelming. A mountain of paper that represented a mountain of obligations. But as I started sorting, a grim clarity emerged. I created tabs: mortgage assistance, utilities, groceries, medical, auto, and the biggest, most painful section: personal loans, specifically for Kevin. Each piece of paper told a story. Here was a $1,500 transfer to my parents' account from 3 years ago. I remembered that day perfectly. My dad had called in a panic. The property tax bill was due and they'd forgotten. His voice was strained, terrified of the penalties. I didn't hesitate. I moved the money from my savings, money I had been setting aside for a down payment on my own place. I told him it was no problem. Looking at the confirmation email now, I felt a cold knot in my stomach. Where was my name on the deed to that house I was helping pay for? I found the monthly payments for the family phone plan. For 6 straight years, I had paid it. Over $200 a month. Every month. I did the math. It was over $14,000. $14,000 for the convenience of them not having to worry about it. $14,000. So Kevin could laugh at me from my mother's speakerphone. The groceries section was a stack of receipts from every major supermarket in a 10-mile radius. I had kept them for budgeting, and now they served a new purpose. I highlighted the totals. $150 here, $200 there. Little amounts that added up to a fortune over time. I remembered my mom praising Kevin's girlfriend for bringing a fancy dessert to a family dinner, while my contribution of 3 full bags of staple groceries sat on the counter unacknowledged. The most infuriating section was Kevin's. I printed his Venmo history. Request after request. Beer money. Gas. Concert tickets. Help a bro out. And then the larger ones. $500. Rent. $300. Car trouble. Each one came with a casual, entitled tone, as if he were asking to borrow a pen. Not hundreds of dollars of my hard-earned money. And I had always said yes. Always. Because family takes care of each other. As I slipped each document into its clear plastic sleeve, the binder grew heavier. It felt like I was giving weight and form to my resentment, to my exhaustion. This was no longer just a feeling in my gut. This was evidence. Cold. Hard. Undeniable fact. Susan came over one evening to see my progress. She flipped through the pages, her expression unreadable. "This is impressive, Emily," she said, tapping a finger on a highlighted utility bill. "But remember the purpose. This isn't just to shame them. This is to free you. This binder is your exit strategy." We sat at my small kitchen table and planned it out. We made a list of every financial tie, every autopay, every shared account. We looked up the procedures for transferring ownership of a phone plan. We drafted a script for me to use when I called the mortgage company. Susan was methodical, turning my emotional pain into a clear, Actionable plan. When you cut them off, she warned, they will panic. They will guilt you. They will rage. They will try every trick that has ever worked on you before. You have to be ready. I looked at the thick, heavy binder sitting on my table. It was full of my past, full of my pain. But holding it, I felt something new. I felt prepared. It was my truth. It was my justification. It was the armor I would wear into the battle for my own life. It was titled in simple block letters on the spine, "This is what I did for you, and this is what I won't do anymore." The first Monday of December was D-Day. I took the day off work, telling my boss I had some personal appointments. It wasn't a lie. I was appointing myself CEO of my own life. I woke up early, made a strong cup of coffee, and sat down at my desk with the binder open next to me. My checklist ready. The first call was the hardest, the mortgage company. My heart hammered against my ribs. I had been making supplemental payments directly to their account for years through an online portal. I wasn't on the loan, but my banking information was linked for autopay on the property taxes, which I had taken over 2 years ago. I navigated the automated phone tree, my voice tight when I finally spoke to a representative. Yes, I'd like to remove my autopay authorization for the property taxes on account number. I read the numbers from a statement. The woman on the other end was polite. Efficient. Of course. Ma'am, can I ask the reason for the cancellation? I will no longer be contributing to this payment, I said, the words tasting strange and powerful in my mouth. Please ensure all future bills are sent directly to the homeowners on record. There was a pause. A flurry of typing. Okay. It's done. You'll receive an email confirmation. I hung up and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. One thread cut. The email arrived a moment later. Confirmation of autopay cancellation. It felt like a birth certificate. Next was the phone plan. This was more complex. I had to go to the provider store in person. I walked in, clutching my account details. I explained to the young man behind the counter that I wanted to separate my own line onto a new individual plan and transfer the primary account holder responsibilities for the remaining lines to my mother. He tapped at his tablet. Okay. So, you'll be releasing the other 4 lines. The new account holder will be responsible for the full monthly bill starting on the next cycle. That's correct, I said. He had me sign a digital form. As the stylus touched the screen, I thought of all the calls, all the texts, all the drama that had traveled over those airwaves. Paid for by me. No more. I walked out of the store with a new SIM card and a new account number my own. For the first time in 6 years, my phone was truly mine. Back at my apartment, I moved online. It was a digital purge. I logged into my parents' Amazon account and removed my credit card. I saw the order again list. My dad's favorite coffee. My mom's vitamins. Kevin's ridiculously expensive protein powder. All purchased with my money. Click. Deleted. I went to the streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Max. My card was the primary payment method on all of them. I logged into each one, went to the account settings, and methodically removed my information. The screen would now read, "Payment method required." The grocery delivery app. The pharmacy account, any place where my financial information was stored for their convenience. I was a ghost, erasing my own footprints from their lives. With each click, I felt lighter. The weight in the binder was transferring from my shoulders to the pages themselves. By noon, it was done. Every tie was cut. If this story of finding strength and setting boundaries resonates with you, please consider subscribing and sharing this video. Your support helps me continue to share these stories and grow. I spent the rest of the day in silence. I turned my phone off, something I rarely did. I read a book. I listened to music. I felt a strange sense of peace. The quiet before a storm I knew was coming. It began on Wednesday. A single text from my sister Jessica. "Hey, is Netflix down? It's asking for a credit card." I read it and set my phone down. I didn't reply. Thursday was when the real panic started. A group text from my mom to me, Jason, and Jessica. "Did someone change the phone plan? I just got an email saying I'm the new account owner and the bill is over $200. Emily, did you do this?" My brother Jason, ever the clueless peacemaker, replied, "Must be a mistake. Mom, Emily always handles it." I stayed silent. Friday. The calls began. My dad, his voice tight with confusion. "Emily, the pharmacy said our card was declined for Mom's prescription. I thought you had it on file. I let it go to voicemail." Kevin called, his voice laced with aggression. "What the hell? Emily, my phone's about to be shut off. Mom said you canceled the plan. You can't just do that." I listened to the message and then deleted it. By Sunday, their world was unraveling. The conveniences they had taken for granted were gone. The safety net had been yanked away, and they were in freefall. They had never known how much I carried because I had never let them feel the weight. Now, for the first time, they were feeling all of it. The texts became more frantic, a flurry of confusion, anger, and accusation. Through it all, I remained silent. I was a stone wall, an unanswered call, an unread text. Every notification that pinged on my phone was a reminder of a chain I had broken. The silence was my answer, and it was louder than any argument I could ever have. The following Tuesday, my mom called me. Her voice was different. The anger was gone, replaced by a thin, brittle desperation. "Emily, please just come over. We need to talk about this. Your father is a wreck." It was the pleas that did it. Not a demand, but a plea. I knew this was the moment. The binder was on my passenger seat as I drove to their house. Its weight a comforting presence. I walked into the house where I grew up. The air was thick with tension. My parents were at the kitchen table. The place where we'd had 1,000 family meals. Where homework was done and holidays were planned. It looked like a courtroom now. Kevin was there too. Slouched in a chair. His arms crossed. A thunderous look on his face. I didn't say hello. I walked to the table. Placed the heavy binder in the center with a solid thud. And sat down. The sound echoed in the silence. "What is this?" my dad asked, his voice raspy. "This is the conversation," I said, my voice even. I looked directly at him. "You asked why? This is why." I opened the binder to the first tab, Mortgage Assistance. I turned it to face him. The pages were filled with printed confirmations of my payments. The dates and amounts highlighted in bright yellow. "Dad," I began, my voice steady. 3 years ago, you were worried about losing the house over a property tax bill. I paid it. That's $5,500. The year after that, you were short on 3 mortgage payments. I covered the difference. That's $2,200 right there. This, I said, tapping a page, is the receipt for the new water heater I paid for in full last winter. Not the quick $300 deposit you asked me for 2 weeks ago. My dad stared at the papers, his face pale. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. My mom just wrung her hands, her mouth a thin line. I flipped to the next section, medical. I slid a receipt across the table. This is for your surgery copay, Dad. The one insurance didn't cover. This is for Mom's dental work. These pages are every prescription copay for the last 4 years. Kevin scoffed. Oh, come on. You're counting prescription copays. I turned my gaze to him. It was cold. And for the first time, I didn't try to soften it. I flipped to his tab, the thickest one in the binder. Let's talk about what I'm counting for you, Kevin. I pulled out the printout of his Venmo history and slid it directly in front of him. The yellow highlighter streaked across dozens of lines. $600 for rent. $400 for a security deposit on an apartment you lived in for 6 months. $50 here. $100 there for what? Concerts. Dates. Beer money. I pointed to the last request. And just last week, you asked me for another $600 for your girlfriend's gift, right after you laughed about me eating in the garage. His face flushed a deep red. I was going to pay you back. No. You weren't, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. You have never paid me back a single dollar. You don't see this as a loan. You see it as your allowance. An allowance you get for being part of a family that I am apparently not good enough for. I looked back at my parents. You banned me from Thanksgiving. You let him humiliate me. You left a plate for me on the porch like a stray dog. For years, I have poured my time, my energy, and my money into this family. I paid your bills. I bought your groceries. I funded your lifestyles, all while you whispered behind my back that I was sensitive or frugal or not successful enough. I leaned forward, my hands flat on the table. I am done. I am done being your bank. I am done being your safety net. I am done being the quiet, sensible daughter you take for granted. My mom finally found her voice. A high-pitched, wounded sound. Emily, this is a betrayal. We're your family. A betrayal? I asked, my voice rising just a little, sharp with years of repressed pain. A betrayal is watching your parents stand by while your cousin calls you trash. A betrayal is being told you're not welcome in your own home for a holiday. A betrayal is realizing you were never seen as a daughter, only as a resource. I stood up, my chair scraping against the linoleum. The showdown was over. I had said my piece. I had shown them the truth. Their stunned faces, their gaping mouths, it was the first time they were truly seeing me. Not as a solution to their problems, but as a person who had finally reached her limit. I left them at the table, their shock and sputtering arguments fading behind me. As I closed the front door, the click of the latch felt final. Sitting in my car, I expected to feel a storm of emotions, anger, sadness, maybe even regret. Instead, a profound quiet settled over me. It wasn't the lonely silence of my empty apartment on Thanksgiving. It was a peaceful, powerful silence. For the first time, the silence belonged to me. It was my choice. The aftermath came just as Susan had predicted. The first wave was anger, mostly from Kevin. The texts started that night, a barrage of fury and insults. You're a monster, Emily. You can't just leave them like this. You think you're so much better than us with your stupid binder. I'm telling everyone what you did. How you abandoned your own parents. I read them and I deleted them. I did not engage. I did not defend myself. His words were just noise. The tantrum of a child who had his favorite toy taken away. The next wave was guilt, expertly wielded by my mother. She left long, rambling voicemails, her voice cracking with emotion. Emily, I don't know what we're going to do. The mortgage payment is due. Your father is so stressed. He isn't sleeping. He has chest pains. How could you be so cruel? After everything we did for you. Raising you? This isn't the daughter I raised. The chest pains was a classic move designed to hook my fear and sense of responsibility. The old me would have buckled instantly, called back, apologized, and sent the money. The new me listened to the message, acknowledged the manipulation, and deleted it. It was hard. A part of me, the caretaker part that had been programmed for 27 years, screamed at me to fix it, but I held firm. My dad didn't call for a week. When he finally did, his message was short, the fight gone from his voice. "Emily, it's Dad. Call me. We need to figure this out." It was the closest any of them had come to admitting they were in trouble. But it was still an attempt to pull me back into solving their problems. I didn't call back. My final word had been said at that kitchen table. My mom had muttered something about betrayal. Kevin had said, "You can't just leave them like this." And my reply, soft but unshakable, replayed in my mind, "I'm leaving you like adults." Which you are. That single sentence became my mantra. I wasn't abandoning them. I was forcing them to face the consequences of their own choices, their own financial mismanagement, their own behavior. True help, I was beginning to understand, wasn't endlessly bailing them out. It was allowing them the dignity and the difficulty of standing on their own 2 feet. I focused on my own life with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I went to work. I saw my friends. I started looking at listings for a small condo. My down payment fund suddenly secure and growing. The silence from my end was a boundary, a wall they could not breach with their anger or their guilt. Weeks passed. The angry texts stopped. The pleading voicemails dwindled. They were being forced to deal with their reality, a reality I was no longer cushioning for them. I didn't know what was happening in their house. And for the first time, I didn't feel responsible for it. The power in that was immense. They had used their words and their actions to push me out. Now, my silence was what kept them at a distance, giving me the space I needed to finally, truly heal. About a month later, just before Christmas, my dad called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously, "Emily." His voice was quiet, hesitant. "Hi, Dad." There was a long pause. I could hear him take a shaky breath. "Your mother and I. We went to a financial advisor. Kevin is. Kevin moved out. He's got a second job." I didn't say anything. I just listened. "I looked through some old papers," he continued, his voice thick. "Found receipts for things I didn't even remember you paying for. The roof repair. My car transmission." He stopped again. "I'm sorry, Emily. I'm sorry for making you feel like a purse." It wasn't a perfect apology. It was clumsy and incomplete. But it was the most honest thing he had said to me in years. "Thank you for saying that, Dad," I said softly. We didn't make plans for Christmas. It was too soon. The wounds were still too raw. But it was a start. A tiny crack of light in a door that had been slammed shut. In the new year, I bought my condo. It was small, but it was mine. Every payment, every piece of furniture was a testament to my own hard work and for my own future. Instead of a binder of their expenses, I started a new folder on my laptop called Plans. It had savings goals for retirement, a travel fund, and investment ideas. It was a folder dedicated entirely to my life, not theirs. On my new fridge, I stuck a single sticky note. It had 4 words on it, written in bold black marker. No is a complete sentence. It was a daily reminder of the most important lesson I had ever learned. Thanksgiving will never look the same. Maybe one day we'll find a new way to be a family. One built on respect instead of obligation. Or maybe we won't. But for the first time, that uncertainty doesn't scare me. Standing in my own kitchen, in my own home, I feel free. My silence became my strength, and my boundaries became the highest form of love I could give. Love for myself. Have you ever been the one your family leaned on until you broke? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more true betrayal stories, where silence